The WASTE 4's new subtests include visual puzzles, figure weights, and cancellation. We're going to be talking about those three today, and I'm going to do a little demo for you. But the subtests that were removed include object assembly, picture arrangement, the coding recall and incidental learning, namely because I don't think anyone ever used that, and the coding copy, same thing. So this is the breakdown of all of the subtests. Changes to the verbal subtests include that they replaced items, revised scores, and added sample responses, and all of them now discontinue at 3. They still have similarities, vocabulary, information, and comprehension. Changes to the performance subtests include block design, the use of the model and stimulus book changed, and you now discontinue at 2. Matrix reasoning, they added sample items for each item and now discontinue at 3. Instead, I don't know if you guys were used to the WASTE 3 that you had to miss 5 consecutive or 4 consecutive or 4 and 5. It was very confusing. Now it's discontinue at 3, which is nice. And then picture completion has enlarged visual stimuli so people can actually see it a little bit better and discontinues at 4. Visual puzzles. Visual puzzles is one of the new subtests, and research shows that it's a more reliable subtest for perceptual reasoning concepts than object assembly, namely because it does not rely on motor skills, coming back to people with cerebral palsy. Examinees are required to view a completed puzzle and select 3 elements that can be combined in their mind's eye to form a gestalt puzzle, designed to measure nonverbal reasoning and ability to analyze and synthesize abstract visual stimuli. So this is actually what it looks like. So the reversal is if the examinee doesn't obtain a perfect score on either item 5 or 6, then you reverse in order, and the discontinue is after 3 consecutive scores of 0. These are sample ones, so you can follow along here as I'm administering it to Miss Mancusi. Imagine that this picture is a puzzle. I'm going to choose 3 of these pieces so that they go together to make a puzzle. The 3 pieces should fit next to each other and not on top of each other. After I look at the pieces, I choose these 3 pieces. I just chose 1, 2, and 6. In the book, I would be pointing to 1, 2, and 6. Even though I could put these 2 pieces together to make them look like a puzzle, 5 and 6, I would not choose them because I have to make a puzzle from 3 pieces. Even though I could put these 3 pieces together to make it look like a puzzle, 2, 3, and 4, I would not choose those because I would have to put this piece on top of this piece and then put both pieces on top of this piece. I cannot stack the pieces to make them look like the puzzle. These 3 pieces, 1, 2, and 6, are the only ones that fit next to each other to look like the puzzle. And then you proceed to the sample items. Another subtest is figure weights. So figure weights contributes also to the perceptual reasoning subtest, or composite rather. It looks at quantitative and analogical reasoning skills. You select the appropriate missing weight needed to balance the scale. It's a Piagetian task. Similar to other Piagetian tasks such as the balance beam task, success suggests the presence of formal stage of operations. This also requires no motor skills for individuals who might have handcuffs on. All right, it's good for ages 16 to 69. So that's something to keep in mind with this one. If you have someone who's 70 years old, you don't want to administer this one to them because it's only normed reference for those ages. And it's designed to measure quantitative and analogical reasoning. And this is what it looks like. Again, this is a really tough example. This one is also, if you suspect an intellectual disability, then you would not want to administer it to, you wouldn't want to start with the start point, you would start with number 1. It's also got the reverse rules. If they miss either 4 or 5, then you reverse. You discontinue after 3 consecutive scores, and this one also has the time limit of 20 seconds for the first 12 and 40 seconds for all of the other ones, and after 10 seconds you can prompt them. Do you have a question? Or do you have an answer yet, rather? The demonstration item. This is a scale with 2 empty trays. And you would go back. You would normally be looking at these over here. The sample, the demonstration one, doesn't quite look like this up here. You can tell that the scale is balanced because the 2 trays are even. If I put a red circle on this tray, the scale is not balanced, and the 2 trays are not even. To balance the scale, I need to put something on the other tray. I would choose the red circle. It's the right shape and the right color so that its weight is the same as the other circle. If I put the red circle on the other tray, it's balanced and the trays are even. I would not choose this one because the color is different and I don't know how much it weighs. I would not choose this one because the shape is different, so I don't know how much it weighs. I would not choose this one because the shape and color are different, so I don't know how much it weighs. Because there are too many red circles, I would not choose this one because there are too many red circles, so I won't know how much they weigh. Now look at these scales. I'm going to show you how to choose which one of these goes here to balance the scale. When there are 2 scales, you have to look at both scales to find the right answer. And that's more in keeping with what's up here. And then there's a sample one after you've given them 2 demonstrations. You turn to the sample and say, now you try one. Which one of these goes here to balance the scale? That's right. 1 yellow square would balance the scale. Let's try some more. And if they give the incorrect response, you then say, let's look again, and then explain in standard format how they got it wrong. The next new one that they have in here, this changes to the working memory subtests include digit span. They added a new thing to digit span. It used to be just digit span forward and digit span backwards. Now they have digit span sequencing. Yeah, which is fun. Arithmetic, they omitted reference to English measurement system, and you can now discontinue at 3. And letter number sequencing omitted the use of the L, I, and O, and 0, which made it a little bit easier. Sequencing is good for a number of different things. It's drawing more on your working memory and with regard to backwards. So if you have digit span forwards and digit span backwards, digit span sequencing is also the same, pulls on the same areas as digit span backwards. And it also requires attention and concentration to be able to do that. Changes to processing speed include symbol search and coding. The symbol search has an enlarged symbol, revised instructions, and coding does the same thing. And the new subtest cancellation. This is a great subtest. I actually really like cancellation. Cancellation is often used by neuropsychologists. It is a part of the processing speed index, and when I say go, you need to draw a line through each red square and yellow triangle. It requires examinees to discriminate the color and shape of the stimuli of the identified target shapes via manual crossing through the items. This is an optional test, so if you have someone with manual dexterity problems or motor movement problems, you wouldn't necessarily administer this one. Also, if you are administering it in confined quarters, like say a therapeutic module, which is akin to a very small enclosed cage with a very small desk that we do testing with in the prisons, I would never administer this because it folds out. It's like a 2 sheets. And it's accesses your visual neglect and response inhibition and motor preservation. So it is a good test with motor ability. It also has the embedded Stroop effect. So it's inhibition. This is the demonstration. So you would go through and put a slash there and a slash there, and then the sample. And the person would go through and put slashes through each yellow triangle and red square. And there are 2 of these. There's another one and this one. And you have a specific time that you time them for 45 seconds. And you say go, and then you say stop. And if they try and go back a previous line, you just remind them just to go in order and don't skip around. And this is a great subtest for people who are not colorblind. So I have tried to administer it to someone who said, yeah, they all look alike to me, and I thought they were messing with me until I'm like, wait a minute, are you colorblind? And they're like, yeah, they're all gray. Don't administer it to someone who's colorblind. Note to self, learn that the hard way. Any cancellation test, there's roughs, 2s, and 7s. There are other tests of cancellation out there. There are actually many tests of cancellation that you can use. It is a really, really good test for looking at cognitive functioning because of the Stroop effect, because people will start marking through all of them, you know, or get confused or not be able to follow the instructions, or pause and say, what were the instructions again? What was I supposed to do? All of those are good behavioral observations that when administering this test, you really need to keep track of for your reports. Anything in the waist you can use exclusively. You know, it won't go to any composite. It won't go to any you know, full scale IQ. But if that's not what you're using the test for, that's fine. You can use any subtest. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good use of the test, though I'm not sure they would agree with that. But I often like to pull out different subtests really to see how people are doing. The first subtest, another change to the waist, is that it starts with the block design. The last subtest is now picture completion, and that's optional. Other waist changes are the scoring. The Global Ability Index is something that I actually wasn't necessarily trained with. I had to learn it on my own, and it's a great way of looking at someone's abilities if the full scale IQ is not a good measure of their overall abilities. So the WAIS-4 also has the Cognitive Proficiency Index, the CPI. And this is comprised of the working memory and processing speed, whereas the GAI is comprised of the VCI and PRI. So if you don't want to look at someone's, like if you have someone, for instance, with cerebral palsy, and you don't think that the PSI is a good measure, or say you didn't administer any of the tests from processing speed because you didn't want that to muck up your scores, then you can get the Global Abilities Index that doesn't include working memory or processing speed to look at their global abilities, and vice versa. So these are different changes and process scores. We're talking about the no time bonus, and when do you use a test that doesn't have a time bonus? Well, you would use that with people who have cerebral palsy or might be affected by the time, and you really just want a pure measure of their visual spatial with block design. Then you can use the block design no time bonus score. And that's also good for people who, say, have ADHD and you just want a pure look at their visual spatial.